It's Friday, May 29th. In the headlines, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness calls for greater hurricane readiness across Jamaica. In business news, Butterfield Bank to buy CIBC Caribbean. Regionally, St. Kitts and Nevis government issues Ebola travel advisory. And in sports, Khadija Shaw named BBC Women's Super League Player of the Season. This is the weekend news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is urging Jamaicans to strengthen their hurricane preparedness ahead of the start of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season on June 1. Dr. Holness used this week's meeting of the National Disaster Risk Management Council at the office of the Prime Minister to stress the point.
Melissa showed that national disaster response, in large part, is a logistics operation. Receiving, storing, securing, transporting, distributing, verifying, and reporting. That understanding informed the decision after Melissa to reassign ODPEM to OPM and also to assign the Ministry of Defense to OPM as well. Yes, there is a Ministry of Defense.
Hurricane Melissa highlighted the need for better emergency planning.
Information is an asset. If we do not know where people are, where roads are blocked, where communities are cut off, where supplies are located, where shelters are operating, and where electricity and water are down, the state is partially blind. Melissa exposed gaps in the national operating picture. Some communities, which are informal, scattered, poorly mapped, or not fully captured in our database, those communities were not served or got service later on in the response.
Dr. Holness also called for more disaster drills, improved continuity plans for schools, health facilities, and stronger coordination among emergency services, utility providers, and private sector stakeholders. Meanwhile, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is projecting a 55% chance of below normal hurricane season, a 35% chance of a near normal season, and a 10% chance of an above normal season for the Atlantic Basin. Natural disasters can strike at any time, making preparation essential. Chanel Matthews took to the streets to find out how people are getting ready for the hurricane season.
Hurricane season begins June 1 and being prepared matters. We spoke to people across Jamaica about their hurricane preparedness.
Of course, I always look up for the news. I reach out for my social contacts, and I always keep in touch with the people I know and be informed what the weather is gonna do. And then I gonna start from that on to see what preparations I gonna need to do.
I prepared, gather things from beforehand, like, candles, get a kerosene oil and get like tin stuff so that you can, eat when the lights go off, so you can eat. As well as those who have medication, they have to put them up properly, like in a bag, so you container where water cannot touch it. And, some of basic things you need for survival, yeah.
Well, in truth and in fact, you can never really be prepared, but what you can do is try and have the necessary things that you need. If you need to button down, you button down. No matter with no candle this year, candle not work. Make sure you have your kerosene and your battery and your solar system. Make sure you have your tin food, and make sure you have your dry food. Store them up, and make sure you have clean drinking water.
So
So I come from country, so my parents are usually the ones to actually look what to do, because I don't have a home for myself yet, but they cut down trees, ensure that the windows are battened down, ensure that everything that could blow away doesn't blow away by battening them down as well. So look around everywhere and ensure that everything is secure.
You can never prepare for a hurricane season. Well, you do the usual, ensure that you don't have a leaking roof. You stock up on all medical items. You have your transition radio or whatsoever. And you try to learn as much about the upcoming hurricane.
Try to work on it. Try to do everything when my daughter send in money. Well, I put on. So, well, I don't know how to just wait. And then they're here to help me. And I would like me, I would want, because water is killing me.
The Bank of Jamaica says stronger consumer protection laws are needed to improve customer service standards across the financial sector, including the operation and maintenance of ATMs. Governor Richard Biles says the central bank currently lacks the legal authority to penalize banks for issues related to market conduct and consumer service. The comments came amid concerns about ATM downtime and compliance with service standards. Denita Rodney reports.
The Bank of Jamaica is again pushing for the implementation of a Twin Peaks regulatory framework, which would separate prudential oversight from consumer protection. According to Governor Richard Biles, the proposal would give one regulator responsibility for financial stability, while another would focus on market conduct and consumer rights.
One of the constraints that we have at Bank of Jamaica is that we don't have the legal backing. In other words, we don't have the right in law to do anything more when it comes on to some issues of market conduct and customer service. And that is why we have been pushing for this concept of Twin Peaks, where you will have a regulator, one regulator, which is the Bank of Jamaica, looking at all of the financial sector from a prudential point of view, and another regulator, the Financial Services Commission, which will look at all of the financial sector from a market conduct and customer protection point of view.
Governor Biles says while the BOJ can monitor ATM performance standards, it currently has no legal power to impose penalties when those standards are not met.
The way in which ATMs operate, that it's up to standard. And if they are not, that there is a penalty for that. As it stands now, there is no penalty. And we don't have the right to implement a penalty.
Deputy Governor Dr. Jide Lewis says Jamaica also lacks a formal redress mechanism that would allow an independent authority to arbitrate disputes between customers and financial institutions.
In 2026, what we have is a code that it ensures that banks are clear on their obligations. What we don't have, what Jamaica doesn't have at this point, is a full redress mechanism that then, when there's non-compliance, you have sanctions.
He says the proposed framework would provide the legal authority needed to enforce consumer protection standards and apply sanctions where necessary.
And so that is where the proposals are moving towards, where there's a legal authority with a mandate and with the necessary mechanisms to enforce redress. So that's sort of the North Star. Where we are today, we have issued a standard, yes. We can monitor against that standard, but in terms of non-compliance, the legal framework is not attuned.
The BOJ says the Twin Peaks model would strengthen accountability in the financial sector while providing greater protections for consumer. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Denita Rodney.
Megamart will close its Portmore location on June 30. ending 27 years of operation at the company's first Jamaican store. Chairman Ghassan Azan described the move as a difficult decision that could affect approximately 200 employees. Azan says the 75,000 square foot Portmore branch had been operating at a loss for some time and was being subsidized by the company's Montego Bay location before that store was severely impacted by Hurricane Melissa last October. Parent company Cost Club Limited says the closure forms part of a strategic consolidation of operations into its Waterloo Road and Mandeville locations to improve long-term sustainability. Azan also pointed to challenges related to the lease arrangement for the Portmore property and the high cost of modernizing the store, estimating that upgrades would require more than $3 million in investment. Outstanding Jamaican thespians will be honored at the Actor Boy Awards Gala being staged at the Edna Manley College for the Visual and Performing Arts on June 1. The Actor Boy Awards, now in its 35th year, celebrates and awards excellence in Jamaican theatre, recognizing the productions and creative professionals whose work has made a significant impact on Jamaica's cultural landscape. Selections are made by an esteemed panel of judges, which includes stalwarts in theatre and the arts, using a very rigorous and standardized process.
The judging process is really quite rigorous and detailed because there are nearly 20 different categories that shows are judged on. So it's not just best director or best actor, best lead actor and supporting actor. It's also the areas of sound, light, costume, design, choreography and movement, sound effects, special effects if there are special effects. An important category is also original play, because when a new Jamaican script is written, we judge on that as an original new script. We have nearly all of the shows that were submitted for judging have been nominated in at least one category. Some have been nominated for several things. So that means at the show, there will be cast and crew from many, many performances, from many different shows. So at the awards show, there will be people representing, the cast and crew from all of those different plays. So when people come, because the show on Monday night is open to the public, it's not just for people in the theatre community, so members of the public can come along and they can mingle with their favourite actors.
The PBCJ congratulates all nominees for the 35th Actor Boy Awards and salutes the hard-working professionals who continue to keep our culture alive through theatrical productions. Time now for the Business Report with Denise Williams.
Welcome to today's Business Report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing you the developments shaping markets, capital access, and business decision-making across Jamaica and the region. Let's get into the stories that matter. The Bank of N.T. Butterfield and Sons Limited, called Butterfield, has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire CIBC's 91.7% interest in CIBC Caribbean Bank Limited. The total consideration to be paid for CIBC Caribbean will be comprised of US $1.091 billion in cash and $703 million in Butterfield shares. Michael Conlins, Butterfield's chairman and chief executive officer, said, "Since Butterfield's 2016 listing on the New York Stock Exchange, we have successfully grown and enhanced profitability through bank and trust acquisitions. This deal combines two storied and complementary banks with significant local scale advantages and time-honored customer relationships in their respective core jurisdictions. For the trading period of May 28, 2026, the most actively traded securities were Sagicor Select Funds Limited Financial with 12,713,990 units, representing 20.93% of market sales activities. Trans-Jamaica Highway Limited with 7,555,413 units, representing 12.44% of market sales activities. QWI Investments Limited with 6,171,193 units, representing 10.16% of market sales activities. Investor activity remained concentrated in finance and transportation plays, signaling continued interest in dividend-producing and strategic assets. Turning to the foreign exchange market based on Bank of Jamaica data for May 28, 2026, Forex traders recorded significant activity with strong demand across major currencies. For the US dollar, trading margins reflected steady liquidity, with the US selling at $156.65 and buying at $158.28. For the Canadian dollar, moderate gains supported by 46-cent transaction spreads meant the Canadian dollar sold for $115.09 and was bought for $114.63. For the British pound, continued volatility offered short-term trading opportunities of $1.62 in profits for the banks. The British pound sold for $212.13 and was bought for $210.51. These movements underscore the importance of cash flow timing and currency awareness for businesses managing import costs, debt servicing, or overseas exposure. For our credit report tip of the day, dual citizenship can open doors to multiple financial systems, but credit does not automatically transfer across borders. Building a strong credit profile starts with responsible use. Open accounts early, keep balances low, and pay on time. Credit is not just about access to money, it is about building financial credibility and long-term opportunity. For our funded and focused feature, you do not always need to invest alone to build wealth. Pooling resources with other investors can create access to property, businesses, and income-producing assets that may be out of reach individually. The right partnership can increase buying power, share risk, and accelerate portfolio growth. The key is simple: clear agreement, proper structure, and aligned goals. Sometimes building wealth is not about owning everything alone. It's about owning the right assets together. Have you considered pooled investing as a part of your portfolio strategy? And that's today's business report. I'm Denise Williams, bringing clarity to capital, markets, and strategy. Until next time, stay informed, stay intentional, and keep building forward. See you soon.
In regional news, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis says it's continuing to closely monitor the evolving Ebola virus disease outbreak and is strengthening national preparedness measures aimed at preventing the virus from entering the Federation.
The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is strongly advising nationals to reconsider and, where possible, avoid non-essential travel to several African countries identified as high risk for Ebola virus disease transmission or importation. The advisory was issued jointly by the Ministry of National Security and the Ministry of Health as authorities continue efforts to safeguard public health amid the evolving Ebola outbreak situation in parts of Africa. According to the Ministry of Health, updates from the Africa Center of Disease Control and Prevention and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention identified countries including the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Angola, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Nigeria among those considered high risk. Officials also warned that travelers arriving from countries identified as high risk for Ebola transmission or importation may be denied entry into the Federation. The government says the temporary measure is aimed at reducing the risk of Ebola virus entering St. Kitts and Nevis. The Ministry of Health says it continues to closely monitor the situation while strengthening preparedness and border surveillance measures in collaboration with regional and international partners. Authorities are assuring the public that proactive steps are being taken to protect residents and visitors and to ensure an effective public health response if necessary. The 12 African countries listed for the travel advisory are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, the Central African Republic, Angola, Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Zambia. I'm Andre Huey reporting for Television Caribbean TVC Channel 40 News.
Guyana's President Irfan Ali used the country's 60th independence celebrations to deliver a strong message on sovereignty, declaring that the Essequibo region belongs completely to Guyana amid the ongoing border controversy with Venezuela. Addressing thousands gathered at the Diamond Jubilee flag-raising ceremony on Fort Island, President Ali reaffirmed confidence in Guyana's case before the International Court of Justice and thanked regional and international partners for supporting the country's territorial integrity.
Even before the ink dried on our independence, a neighbor rose to challenge our very existence.
That was President Irfan Ali addressing thousands gathered for Guyana's 60th Diamond Jubilee Independence flag-raising ceremony. During his address to the nation from Fort Island, one of 365 gems in the Essequibo River, the president asserted sovereignty over the Essequibo region. Ali used Guyana's 60th independence anniversary celebrations to deliver a strong defense of the country's sovereignty over the Essequibo region amid the ongoing border controversy with Venezuela. With thousands in attendance, President Ali declared that Guyana remains united and confident as the matter continues before the International Court of Justice. Quote unquote, "The Essequibo is Guyana's," the president said to loud applause. Quote unquote, "It has never been Venezuelan." Guyana marks 60 years since independence and celebrated this year's activity under the theme Homecoming. The president reflected on the challenges Guyana faced at independence in 1966, including economic hardship, colonial divisions, and Venezuela's territorial claim over more than 2/3 of Guyana's territory. He noted that the territorial controversy affected Guyana's confidence and development for decades, but said the country never surrendered its sovereignty or national identity.
Crossing the rivers and establishing the fundamental truth that Essequibo belongs completely to Guyana.
The celebrations being held in Essequibo portrayed a powerful symbolism as Guyana continues to build and chart a new course for its destiny. The president described the region as part of Guyana's heartland. He said Guyana remains confident in the validity of the 1899 Arbitral Award, which established the boundary between the two countries and reaffirmed that the International Court of Justice has jurisdiction to decide the matter. President Ali also stressed that Guyana holds no hostility toward the Venezuelan people. The president thanked international partners including CARICOM, the Commonwealth, the United States, and the Organization of American States for supporting Guyana's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The 60th Diamond Jubilee Independence flag-raising celebration delivered government's expectations, a message of strength, hope, peace, and prosperity. Marvin Cato reporting for HGP Nightly News.
Belize says it's still seeking common ground with the United States over the future of Cuba's medical brigade program. Prime Minister John Briceño says discussions are ongoing as Washington continues to press Caribbean countries to end participation in the program, which the U.S. has described as a form of forced labor. However, Briceño maintains that Cuban doctors remain vital to Belize's healthcare system and says efforts are underway to address U.S. concerns while preserving access to critical medical personnel.
Health front, where do things stand between Belize and the United States over the Cuban Medical Brigade? Washington has been pushing hard, calling the program a form of forced labor and urging Belize to walk away from it. But the issue is far from settled. Today, Prime Minister John Bersenio gave an update on those discussions, shedding light on how his government is navigating the pressure while weighing the critical role Cuban doctors continue to play in Belize's healthcare system.
We are still hopeful that we can be able to work some kind of agreement with the Cuban government that they would allow the medical brigade members that would want to stay to be able to stay and still meet the I'm trying to find the right word, meeting what is expected from the Americans who are saying, well, this is a form of human trafficking. We're trying to be able to address that so that then the Americans say, okay, well, they're here working on their own free will, and that whatever monies we give, it goes to them and supposedly not the state. But as we pointed out from the start, we have been paying the doctors directly and not the government.
These discussions follow decisions from countries across the region to expel Cuban medical brigades because of U.S. pressure.
In sports, we lead off with football. Reggae girl Khadija Shaw has added another major accolade to her standout season after being named the BBC Women's Super League Player of the Season. The 29-year-old Jamaican striker secured more than 80% of the vote after scoring 21 goals in 22 matches to help Manchester City win the Women's Super League title for the first time in a decade. Bunny Shaw also contributed 4 assists during the campaign and recently signed a contract to extend with the club. Earlier in this season, she captured both the WSL Player of the Year award and the Golden Boot. In other news, Cricket West Indies has named a 15-member squad for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2026 to be held in England and Wales from June 5 to July 5. Hayley Matthews will captain the team, with Chanel Henry serving as vice-captain. The squad features experienced players including Deandra Dutton, Stephanie Taylor, alongside emerging talents such as Jazara Claxton and Shawnisha Hector. Head coach Shane Dietz says the squad was selected with a clear strategy tailored to English conditions, focusing on aggressive power play, batting, adaptable bowling options, and maintaining pressure throughout matches. And that's it for the weekend news on PBCJ. Pleasant viewing.